Welcome back to PianoTurtle. Today I'm going to do a breakdown, give you a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes in my mind when I'm transcribing. And I'm going to do the entire movement because with the Rachmaninoff I did it one section at a time. I thought I'd just do the entire thing. Now each section have a different treatment and a different mentality, so make sure you watch until the very end. Daniel Barenboim once said in a master class, there is a fine line between liberty and anarchy. And I take that fine line very seriously. So hopefully, even with the liberties that I took, you'll still think that I respected the source very much. Okay, so anyway, let's get started. In the very beginning, by looking at the two piano score and the full score, there's a difference. So let's start. Now, in the two piano reduction, it is, but I went and did octaves, or rotating octaves, oscillating octaves, so it can sound bigger. The two piano score is more literal, because in the orchestral score, parts of it cuts out, right? But if you were to perform it on piano, it sounds just a little tinnier and not grand enough, in my opinion. So I went all the way down to the low D. Now that is taking a liberty, right? It's not exactly the same as what's written. But for the right hand, I did the literal approach. After the G chord, this right here, now in the orchestra score, it is an octave higher. Why? Because the flutes and the winds join. So instead of doing a seventh chord that is narrower, I did, so I can still have the A. And the pressure favors towards the middle so that it can sound closer to what you hear when you listen to the orchestra score. When you hear it, the flute, you can't hear it. It's drowned out by the strings. So actually, whoever did the reduction made a very good choice of not doing it literally and keeping it low, and just favored the string section rather than the wind section, okay? But I wanted to do both to see what it sounds like, so here it is. Comes in. A lot of solo going on, so I'm going to kind of push the fast forward button. Okay, now here, technically, there's a huge jump. I call that the vanish. It's kind of like a punch, If you can vanish to anywhere, if you can vanish from here to here in less than a second, and then play it, and vanish back. If you can do that far, with practicing, just focus on vanishing as far as you can and see if you can grab it, and then anywhere is fine. During the repeat, I add a little pedal. Now here, there's two fingerings. One is not favoring the thumb on black keys, because then you have to twist this way, which is fine. So take a look. By doing it that way, I bring out the resolutions. But when I kind of rotate this way a little bit, by the way, flat fingers is better suited for that passage if you were to use this fingering. Now here's the alternate fingering. In the performance I showed them back to back. That's like playing Hanon on every key. You know, doesn't matter. Thumb on black keys, doesn't matter. All right. Now that one, I usually use a little less pedal because I'm not trying to bring out the resolutions. Instead, I just want to get a crystal clear sound. So one is better to bring out the voice leading, and the other is better to get clarity. See? Now the other one, the one where the two finger leads. Second finger. It's very difficult at a fast speed to bring out the voices, so either fingering is fine. All right, moving on. Okay, back to orchestra. The transcription differences is mostly in the orchestra section. Here in the two piano score, okay, now in the orchestra version there are some D's going up, boom, 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 and then the second time it does that, it's eighth notes, da, 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 da. So I decided to add that in and sacrifice the doubling. If you do that with, if you sacrifice those notes, but you add those D's in, you get a good bass line, and I love it. Now, if you really want to be literal, and if you can oscillate fast enough, do rotations. I don't recommend it. It takes a lot of practice. Here's another part where the flutes join and you can't hear it. I can't when I listen to YouTube anyway. But it's there. Two piano. So that is a musical interpretation done by the reductionist or transcriber, you know. There are no more notes then. All right, the flute joins in. That's why you can't hear it. I add a chord. I go up there, but I add a chord. Let's see how that sounds. By adding that chord and favoring again this G rather than that G, this is where the flute stops and the strings continue. Here comes the part where I really enjoyed the orchestra, the Mendelssohn's thinking of harmony here. The two piano version goes like this. Now this jump right here, that's what you will hear when you listen to it, but it's not how it's literally written. Instead, the winds have this chord. Now that is much smoother as a transition. All right, so take a listen to both versions. Now, with the winds written in. Two piano version, single lines instead of octaves. And then two notes join with octaves. I just did the entire thing octaves. It's also a little simpler for the mind because whenever you have single notes, you have to worry about fingering. Ah, yeah, here, I almost call it a cheat. If I ever choose to do octaves with everything, I don't have to worry about fingering, I just need to worry about accuracy. For those who fear octaves, well, work on octaves. Now here, more Ds, done by the basses. The two piano version, again, fingering issues. I don't want to worry about that, so octaves it is, and it sounds bigger. This is an orchestral reduction. I want to treat it orchestrally. Literally speaking, I think the piano part sounds a little tinier. This is the first real combination issue here. The pianist gets and then, so I play a forte, you know, you really don't miss much, so that is this is an impossible situation here. I can't octavize, I just made that word up, that fast, right? So, got to take one out. That's fine. Here, yeah, just one line instead of this. And we have these chords. Okay, that's how I did it. And then now over here, during the octaves, it's all piano solo. And then more members of the orchestra join here. And then go to the F, to the lovely second theme. But this melody, theme 2, is more singable. Minor, transpose. That's it, that's the melody. Right? This is not a show-off part. You can play it fast. I choose to musically slow down. Getting it back to speed is the tricky part. Here and jump in. Part is basically the second theme. Now here, liberty is taken. I gave it to the cellos. Why? Because right in the middle of that, I'm doing an arpeggio. Forget about it. I'm really scratching my head of how Rachmaninoff's third piano concerto can be transcribed literally, and a much simpler, easier Mendelssohn cannot. Now, two notes with the right hand. The piano part, it goes like this. So I sacrificed an F, made it into a G, so it can be the melody. Here, there's two versions. The piano part goes double sixes all the way up for all those scales. But I had to cut that out because of the winds. That is too cool to let go of. Now I do have a second version where I do play some of the sixes. Give you the impression that I did do a six. And then comes this one. I don't want to do a middle G, I want to do that low G, so I had to stretch out. And then vanish here to continue the scale. It adds difficulty level to the piece, but it didn't add too much musically. So the pro is you get the double sixes, parts of it. The con is you get the double sixes, only parts of it. All right, moving on. Crescendo for just one beat, right here, and then immediately double piano, like a whisper, and then crescendo in the last beat. Now here comes one of the hardest technical parts, because for the pianist, I get to trill with 2 and 3. Even that's kind of hard to get the coordination right. But with the solo, I need to do almost the entire thing and trill with the 4th and the 5th finger. And then an extra voice in the middle. While trilling. Not easy. Again, here's a passage where flat fingers work better. But immediately the next arpeggial run, curved fingers, is better. So this whole flat finger, curved finger, just give it a break, okay? It is situational. Multi-voices. Very difficult part. I cheated in my playthrough. I hesitate to call it a performance. And maybe you noticed that I'm playing a lot faster than the performance. Why? Because of this part. You need to play at the speed of your slowest parts. So if 2 measures causes you to slow down and you're ready in performances tomorrow, you got to play the entire thing based on those two measures. Moving on. And again, here, there are some flutes, but in this case I didn't do anything to it. Again, the Ds. That is the literal two-piano version. Moving on. Whenever I listen to the orchestra, it sounds fuller. So this A here is not written, but I'm adding it in. Now here I have two versions. I didn't write it in, but one is you jump the octaves. Octaves. The other is you jump the right hand only. Now the reason I did that is because of the continuing on. See, you need your left hand here. Or you jump the octaves for that big orchestral sound and then jump right back. Either is fine. One takes a little more practice. So, but this is much easier. Now here, I took a major liberty. The piano part alone is like this. I'm not quite used to it, so I'm just going to sight read it. That's not the hard part, but the hard part's here. That's non-stop, this whole... And it's in the way of the melody. So what I did is, the melody is favored. And the entire left hand gets all this zigzag in. I took major liberties with that. Is much easier. Sometimes just two lines alone can stop you dead in your tracks and you go, how do I do this? All right. The revision came months later. I forgot to write down what date. But the revision captured both the, the way the lines are shaped is captured nearly exactly. So here it is. And I have to slow it down because it's still very difficult. I think the amount of thought that I put into these two lines is equivalent to the sum of the thoughts that I put in the Rachmaninoff third. All right. This is written after the Rachmaninoff third, by the way. All right, moving on. Those extra lines I reversed the treatment of the right hand to get the B flat. I reversed it. The original is. See, it's not. But I needed to start as C to get the line. And the third time, normal. That's the original, and the original works. Now here comes a technical challenge, because when both hands are playing at the same time, very often one hand is slower than another and it can get out of alignment with each other. Let me play it first for you. And I'm going to reduce my amount of focus and let's see how it comes out. Not very good. Now I'm going to focus. A little better. Here's the trick. Whenever you have two hands doing exactly the same thing, the winner must be a good leader and lead from the side. Not just run off. All right, basically follow your weaker hand. Let's see how that works. Yeah, that worked. The speed was a little slower because this hand didn't do a good job. Anyway. Now here, again, going at the speed of your mind is very important, because at the G, you must think widen up, because we're about to hit a 10th in a split second to get that bass C. All right, so here we go. I wish I could hit this. Rachmaninoff can, but I couldn't. So this one I had to sacrifice. I didn't want to sacrifice that big C there. Believe it or not, the right hand is weaker than the left hand. Why? I'm not doing trills here. So I actually follow the 16th notes up here. Stop trilling and jump. Stop trilling and jump to get the line right here. You need to do both hands sharing here. Another huge difference between the second piano and the orchestral. The orchestral version have a line that the second piano reduction totally ignored in favor of an effect, which I love. I don't know what to do. I will perform it 2 different times differently. One is just pedal tone. You know how I love pedal tones. Now here's the more orchestrally accurate version. So here we go. That big 10th. I love it too. And then the double thirds going up. Full octaves again. No fingering necessary. Which one I like. Which one do you like more? The 2 piano version or the orchestra version? Moving on. The 2 piano version gave the melody to the cellos, just like I did taking liberty and gave it to the cellos earlier, right? on that one. See? That's more closer to the orchestra. You know now I like to follow the orchestra score more so than the two piano score in general. But in this case, the two piano score was artistically written to mimic the sound of the orchestra. Because by listening to it, I can pretty much guarantee that you won't hear all these notes played by the winds up here. So, which is a very big dilemma for me, what to do. Where was I? Now, in competitions, high school competitions, very often when this piece is played, they don't do the entire movement. They stop it right here. Here, I just want to tell you that I made many alternate endings so that this movement can be performed by itself. Let's try one of them. Okay, so you've got to count there. It's obviously not my favorite, but it's a thing to do. Options are good. Here's another one based on the winter wind. The ending of it. Like that, like the wind taking off right here. I decided to do two of them. That's fun too. Now, another one is the based on the Tchaikovsky Concerto, third movement. I thought of that idea, and then the B minor Liszt sonata came to mind. The ending. Capture it with the sostenuto pedal. Let it go. Harp. Bigger arpeggio. And then, just like the B minor, give it a single little dot. That was fun too. And that actually transitions into the second movement if you want to perform it with breaks. The way Mendelssohn did it, of course, he transitioned right into it. The final one, let's see. And maybe this time, a little rotation. That's not written, but just having a little fun here. That is all for today, the first movement. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown.